All right, YouTube, because Trump has been elected, the U.S. has been downgraded to a flawed democracy. That is, we're no longer a fully functioning democracy. Now, we never were a democracy anyway. We're a representative republic. When they talk about democracies, though, they mean the state is a direct democracy, a representative democracy like ours, something along those lines, like a parliamentary system like you get in the UK, something along those lines. So it's sort of a loose use of the term democracy. It doesn't mean that a bunch of people just get together, they hold a popular vote, and whatever they say goes. It's not like that. The U.S., though, has been a flawed democracy for quite some time. Since 9/11, we've definitely been a flawed democracy. As soon as the Patriot Act was installed, when they started setting up free speech zones, conducting mass surveillance, government got more and more opaque, we were no longer a fully functioning representative democracy because we're not represented. It's not like our best interests are being represented, number one. It's not like we even know half of what goes on in D.C. anymore, number two. But it goes back further than that. As soon as you go back to like the FDR era and the birth of the military-industrial complex, and government taking more and more and more of an interventionist role in the economy, at that point we were no longer a fully functioning representative democracy either. We kind of were, but it wasn't a perfectly functioning system. That's when we became truly corrupted. You go back to the Gilded Age, we get corrupted by corporatism. Then the progressives come in to try to... Honestly, I like TDR. I consider him to be a great president. Some of the things that he did laid the groundwork for very bad things to come, but he had good intentions. He wasn't trying to be corrupt. He thought he was standing for the lower classes. And for a while it worked. But they come in, they pass the first wave of interventionism, of statism, honestly, in the United States. So that corrupts us further. Then we march along for a while. Things are, other than the Depression, things are generally going well. People can, do most of what they want. Then the military-industrial complex comes along. Well, first you get like the G-men, the prohibition stuff, and they take people's Tommy guns away. And people's rights in general are more denigrated. They start their like witch hunts after people who haven't, they paid 1 penny too little in taxes. They get thrown in jail for the rest of their life. Then you get the military-industrial complex under FDR. May his dick burn forever in hell. FDR comes along, truly overhauls the way that government is thought of, becomes basically an autocrat. Nobody wants to stand against him. Ends up a four-termer. Undeservedly, should have been kicked out after his second term. In fact, he never should have been elected in the first place. So then we become even more of a corporatist system. The atomic era begins. For a while we have competent leadership. I believe that Eisenhower and JFK both had noble intentions. They get usurped. Johnson comes along, things get worse. Nixon comes along, things get worse. And then we get 9/11, and at that point we no longer were any sort of a functioning democracy. So this is a political move, number one. This is the basic takeaway. These people knew we weren't a fully functioning representative democracy since 9/11. You looking at the sort of legislation that's passed, the increasing bureaucratic burden on the population, increasing intervention. You look at like Obama giving billions of taxpayer dollars to a bunch of private entities to prop them up. It's crazy. That's not how a representative democracy is supposed to work. But since 9/11 especially, with the Patriot Act and so forth. No, of course we haven't. But they never actually labeled us a flawed democracy. Yeah, we got demoted down the list over time from, we're the most free nation of all time to now I think we're in the 21st place. We're down at the lower end of the list of even partially functioning democracies in the world. And the number of democracies is decreasing over time anyway. In some states, there's been improvement. In others, now I would look around. And as far as fully functioning representative systems, you've essentially got Switzerland, Iceland, Norway, I suppose to an extent, maybe Finland or something like that. Not Sweden, of course. Sweden doesn't even exist anymore for the most part. Yeah, maybe New Zealand, I guess. There aren't that many actual representative systems left in the world. Democracy's dying right now. It's not because of Trump. They waited to make this decision until after Trump was elected. They didn't want to make the decision when it was Obama. They didn't want to make it look like they were indicating that the first black messiah president of the United States could possibly have done something wrong. But if you look at his presidency, you've got limitless and unaccountable silent war via drone, targeted assassinations. The United States destroyed Libya. We destroyed Syria, mostly. They're still struggling to survive. It's going to get better, I think, over the next few years, but it's going to be a slow process. And they're going to get better because of the efforts of Iran, of all fucking nations. It's not like Iran's a functioning democracy either. So you've got all of these various... It's like Turkey. Turkey, a few years ago, I would have classed it as at least a marginally functional representative system. I even said that when people would say, "Oh, Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East," I said, "Well, you're forgetting Turkey. They're in the Middle East. They're a democracy too." But now they're not. Now they're not a completely autocratic system. Erdogan is making one final constitutional push to give himself limitless power. There'll be a dictatorship in less than a year. My advice to any people in Turkey with any skills at all, you've got an education or so, you go to Europe. You go to some place that's more stable. Because otherwise you're going to be living in a third world hellhole pretty soon. Sad but true. Either Erdogan goes or Turkey goes. That's just the way that it is. Here in the United States, no, they waited until Trump was elected so they could make it look like Trump's election downgraded us to a flawed democracy. That's what they did. It's a purely political move. It's like when they gave Obama the Nobel Peace Prize. He had never done anything to deserve it. He then proceeded to kill hundreds of thousands of people all over the world with his drone program. He even conducted surveillance on Angela Merkel's private phone. Why do you think she got so pissed off at the time? That is not the way that a true democracy is supposed to function. The way we're doing business, yeah, it's more than a flawed democracy. It's not even a representative system anymore. Don't even bother handling us with kid gloves. The United States is no longer a republic. It's not an empire. It's not like we went the way of Rome and we have Caesars or anything like that now, but we've got a system in which there's so much convoluted bureaucracy, so many layers of opaque government stonewalling as far as being held accountable for anything. How can you even call it a representative system? We don't even know half of what goes on. How can we say it represents us? It doesn't represent the common good. It doesn't represent a hands-off approach by government to let people determine the course of their own lives. We've got higher and higher taxes. We've got more and more fighting, both here and abroad, as far as militarism goes. No, I wouldn't class that as a fully functioning republic. No, I wouldn't. Since 9/11, certainly. It's not like Trump arrives and magically everything gets worse. It's politics. It's what it is. It's a dick move, honestly, by these organizations. I don't know how seriously we can take them. Yeah, we're still a free country in the sense that if you pay your taxes and if you don't say the wrong thing and if you don't, do a million other things, then you can be left alone, largely. Yeah, as long as you give the government half of your money, as long as any productivity gets taxed, as long as the car you drive is inspected constantly, you have licenses and registrations for literally everything you do, as long as you get permission from the government and pay them, then you're free. Yeah, I wouldn't call that freedom. The biggest problem in the Bush administration was that all the flag wavers would call you unpatriotic if you said that. If you criticized the Patriot Act, said, well, it's making us less free, they said, oh, but you're still, look around the world, who's more free than us, blah, 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 blah. And all the partisan Republicans used to say that. And in the Obama era, if you said, well, what the government's doing is wrong, this doesn't represent us, this isn't freedom, this isn't patriotism, they say, oh, you fucking right-wing T-Billy piece of shit, oh, you're a fucking Ku Klux Klan member, or something like that. Now you've got a similar problem that people who support Trump, if it's like the CIA black sites, which no, I don't support bringing them back. And I'm sure I'll get flack from some of the Trump fans for pointing that out. They'll say, oh, well, how can you say that we shouldn't be torturing terrorists or something like that? Well, this is unconstitutional. It looks bad. It's immoral. It doesn't actually help us. It's much like the mass surveillance of Obama. It doesn't keep us safer. It's just a power grab by the government. and I'm going to criticize. I'm going to rake him over the coals for that. I deeply oppose Trump on that issue. But yeah, it's going to be similar. The Democrats will just boil it down to, oh, Trump's an evil fascist, but government overall is great. And the Republicans will say, oh, yeah, and Trump's government is great, too, and there's nothing ever wrong with it. Everything's so perfect. All of the time, anything Uncle Sam wants to do, it should be able to do in an autocratic fashion. Fuck the little people. Who gives a fuck about them? The Democrats and Republicans fundamentally agree on this largely in spirit. I have hope for Trump that he's actually going to lift up the state of our republic over time. But at the same time, there's a hell of a lot of degradation that's already gone on. It's going to take him a lot of effort to restore that, and that's assuming that he even bothers trying. Fixing an economy is easy compared to that. Fixing the economy, yeah, he'll probably be able to do that. As far as jobs go, he's going to be remembered as the next Reagan. At the very least, probably better than that. Maybe the next Ike. The boom times of the nifty 50s, something like that. We'll go back to having our linoleum and all of these other things. But as far as restoring the full functions of a representative system, we've got so much bureaucracy, so much surveillance, so much militarism, and so much division, honestly, in our country. It's not clear anybody can fix it. We might be able to stagnate the degradation of our republic to hold steady at what we're at now. But as far as restoring it, it's going to take a hell of a... It's going to be a generational reform. It's going to be more than one presidency. Even if Trump gets 2 terms. If Trump got 2 terms to do whatever he wanted, and he pledged himself fully to restoring our representative system back up to working order to increase freedom and liberty, he still would fall well short of getting us to that top slot. He still would fall well short of getting us back to where we should, by all rights, be operating at. It would take 3 or 4 presidents in a row with 2 terms, constantly working on that one issue to get us back there. Because it took a dozen presidencies to fully strip away all of that liberty. So yeah, we've been downgraded to a flawed democracy, as though we didn't fucking know we were one. I knew that a long time ago. That's about all. Peace out.